Okay, perfect. Welcome to another Mother Fiction Writers podcast. I'm your host, Stevi, and I have Chloe today. We're doing a collab. This is my first collab ever. She also has a podcast, and it's called Bookstagram Live. And you can find her on Instagram, and I will try my best to do the tags, but I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself.
Hey, I'm Chloe. My podcast is Bookstagram Live, and this is also my first collab, so we're in this together.
Yeah.
I'm at C Sutcliffe Books on Instagram, so you can always find it in like the episode description, and I'm sure you always tag people as well.
But yeah, so I'm excited to have you on, and I'm excited to share writing tips and how we kind of and get to know your writing style a little bit better too. Because both of us, how long has it been? Have you been on Bookstagram for 3 years?
It will be 3 years at the end of the year, yeah.
It's exciting. We finally get to see each other kind of face to face.
It's been a long time, but
yeah,
it's always really exciting to come on these podcasts and finally get to speak to someone who I've only really been interacting with in like comments and DMs before. It's really nice just to get to speak to people.
I think it's really cool that we can kind of connect from across the ocean, you know? I think that is so neat. So thank you, technology, for that, even though I'm not the best at understanding you. But I'll jump in with a question and kind of bounce off the technology thing.
Go on.
One of my questions was, are you a big note taker? And if you do take notes, whether they're like long descriptions or just really to the point ones, are they on your phone or computer, like more technology based, or do you go old school notebook style?
See, I'm a bit all over the place with notes. Like, I'm quite good at if a particular idea comes into my head, then it can stay there for a while. But kind of more specific details I do try to note down, and it's usually on my phone because that's just what I have to hand. But then I think we were talking about this on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. I have a habit of collecting notebooks and not particularly using them.
Right. I think that's kind of the curse of a artist or a creative mind. We kind of do that.
Yeah.
But so do you also do like are you one that writes on Scribd? I forget. Was that something we had talked about before? Or not Scribd, Scrivener?
No.
No.
I usually use Word, but I've been thinking about trying different platforms.
Gotcha. Because that's where I am right now too. I'm trying to do and get to know different platforms and stuff, almost because I need to be a better note taker and I need to have them in a specific place. And there's so many good platforms out there for writers where you can have it all in one. You can do your manuscript, you can have your notes, character boards. So which ones have you kind of like looked into?
So at the moment I'm having a play around with Notion. So I'm trying it with different things. I'm still doing all my writing on Word, but then on Notion I've started tracking like word counts and like making like character pages so I can track like what descriptions I've written or like what their personality is, because sometimes when you're writing a novel you can lose some of those smaller details, so I'm trying to get better at keeping track of those, and I'm seeing how that goes at the moment. But I started that maybe a month ago and it's going well so far.
Good. Well, that's good. I love that. Because one that I've kind of started was from the Authorgram, Bookstagram community. I had never heard of it, and it's called Campfire Writing. Have you heard of that one?
I don't know that.
So it is basically a website based one, and obviously there's a free version and there's a paid version. But I just started with the free version to kind of get the feels of it. But what I like about it is you can upload your whole manuscript on there, and you can do it chapter by chapter kind of a thing. So then they're all tabbed, they're all labeled. And then you can add, so I'm a huge Pinterest person for inspiration, for character boards, all that stuff. So you can add pictures with your characters, and then from there have little tabs of like your character's personality. What do they like? What do they don't? Who are they connected to in what way? You can even do like little trees and stuff. And I just think I'm having fun with it. So
It sounds quite clever. Like all
yeah,
the
it
different
is.
things you can do with it.
Well, I think the tagline kind of got me was the tagline is something like a writer's program created by writers, like that kind of a thing. So it's like writers knew. We obviously know what we need. We need a one-stop shop kind of a thing. So I'm having fun with it. Again, I've been doing it only about a month as well. So it's still new to me, still fresh. So, but
Yeah,
that's
I'll have to
my
have a look into that one as well.
yeah, and there's so many out there too. I just know I do a lot of my writing, or what I have done is always Google Docs, and then Google Docs now is like changing, and then with all the AI stuff and everything. So I've been trying to find something more solid than that. Plus,
Yeah.
I need to find a better formatting too, a better way of formatting as well. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that'll help. But I'm going to let you ask a question now.
Okay. One moment. How or where do you get your inspiration from when you're writing? Does it come to you piece by piece, or do you get like a whole story, like as one?
So, inspiration kind of comes from a lot of different things for me. But I'm one of those, like, if you're talking like a brand new idea that just like kind of hits me, it could literally come from just being on a walk or a vacation, or I see like a tree, and the tree makes me have an idea. You know what I mean? Like makes me think of whether it's like an enchanted forest, or maybe even, I mean, there's been a tree where it had like, not that every tree makes me have an idea, but I'm just like coming like there was one where it made me create a character, almost like the Ents in Lord of the Rings kind of thing. There's this character, and he's on a different planet, but this planet he's kind of like is like made of bark and stuff. And so little things come from or inspiration comes from anywhere for me. It could just be the flick of something, just all of a sudden an idea hits, and I'm like, that would be a good start to a story, or that would be a good character. And then also some of my authors who are the biggest inspiration are, of course, George R. R. Martin. If I could even have a speck of world building talent as he has, I would be just like set. Because I think he's great. And I think he's great also with complex characters and stuff. And then I love Holly Black, but in a different way. I love her edgy characters, and I love her dark. She's not afraid to just take magic and make it dark, or like take the lore of things and
Yeah.
pull from that. So those are like my two inspiration, like when it comes to artists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your inspirations?
With the world building for me, I find I take bits and pieces from loads of different TV shows I've seen, books that I've read over all the years, and I've kind of like mushed it all together,
Right.
taking all sorts of bits and pieces, and it creates something new. So
I
that's
love that.
how I go about world building. And
Right.
Yeah, and I also have all of my stories will be set in the same world, so that makes it easier.
Okay.
And then I can like focus on different elements of the world building in different stories as well.
That's awesome. I like that. I love when stories kind of connect like that too. And then for you, do you kind of feel like um, when you start with a different area, it's just fun to expand from there and stuff? Almost like if your character started in small town Iowa, and then you
Yeah,
would build just within like that country, and then you go to different. Is that kind of how you play? How you do it?
yeah, I have done a bit of that, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I like
moving
that. I like it.
characters from just like because I'm working on 2 novels at the moment, so if you take the first one, Royal Games, the main character starts in Palace, and then the story expands to the surrounding town, and then she
Nice.
goes through a portal to Earth, so then you get to explore Earth from, like, a magical person's perspective, and you get
That's cool.
that as well. So it,
I
like,
like
zooms
portals too.
out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love portals because you don't really see them a whole lot in books. Um, but I feel like they need more of their
Yeah.
moment in books. Because you can go so far with those.
Yeah. Like my concept is there's Earth and then there's a magical planet called Utopia. And
Nice.
like it's kind of based on the concept of utopia. So
Okay.
again, it's drawing inspiration from other pre-existing things.
Right. I like that. That's cool. And so that one of my questions actually to bounce off of that is, so what genre would you call your books then?
Definitely romantasy. Although
Okay.
Royal Games is more YA, whereas
Yeah.
the other novel I'm working on, Song of Darkness, that's much darker, so it's going to be adult because of the darker
Gotcha.
themes that it deals with, but they're both romantasy.
Gotcha. I love romantasy. I love that that's becoming like its own genre
Yeah,
now because it
definitely.
should be. Yeah, it definitely should be. Because I was wondering when you were saying like the portals and then the planets and like Earth and stuff like that, if there was a little sci-fi in there. But I love that it's more on the fantasy romance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Topia is more like the medieval inspired fantasy worlds rather than going into like urban fantasy. Like if I wanted to write
Right.
urban fantasy, it would be set on Earth.
Yep. Yep. Um, And so you're writing 2 books. That was my other question, is how many projects
Yeah.
do you have kind of going on right now? And so how do you choose? Do you just kind of whichever one inspires you, you kind of choose to write
Yeah,
that in that moment? Okay.
I kind of have this thing where I'll be writing one of them for a while, and then I might
Mhm.
get a little bit of writer's block. So then that's
Yeah.
when I move back to the other one, and it's quite nice to be able to change between them because I find that if I just let a bit of time pass, then when I go back to working on the other project, I'll have
Right.
more inspiration and I'll be able to keep moving again.
Yeah. Once I do the same. I'm very similar in that kind of, that's why I always have multiple projects going on. Because it is easy to kind of get into like a block. No matter how you could be going, or at least for me, I could be doing like 2 months straight with this one project and it's going great and I'm loving it. But this one scene will come up and it'll hit me and I'll be like, I don't know where to go from here. Like all of a sudden I'm
Yeah.
stuck. So it is nice to kind of then have that breath of fresh air to jump to. And then it's also nice. Do you find it when you go back to your projects? Do you find like you've missed them? And so then that writer block, it's easy for that writer's block to disappear because
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah, I know
welcome.
that feeling.
Yeah, I like that. I'm very much similar in that kind of the way I think and the way I do my books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll let you ask another. What? Sorry.
Yeah. You never said the genres you write.
Oh, so I'm kind of currently trying to expand into different things, but I've always been so if you would have asked me prior to Bookstagram, like when I wrote on like Wattpad and stuff, I was just fantasy. Of course, there was some romance in there a little bit, but romantasy wasn't, you're talking like 7 years ago. It really wasn't as big of a, it wasn't a genre or anything like that, you know? So I was a deep fantasy person, strictly fantasy. And then just lately, I don't know if it's my old age or what it is, I kind of will thank or blame Ice Planet Barbarians. I'm loving, they opened my eyes to a different form of romance. So did Akatar, of course, as well, and stuff like that, and From Blood and Ash. But I'm really into the kind of alien romance stuff, but taking my own version of that. So I have one project that is more of a sci-fi adventure romance, and then I have my main one, the one that I'm hoping that is on Kindle Vella right now, and that I'm hoping to publish in 2024 is that one is
exciting.
I know it gets me overwhelmed a little bit, but it's so exciting to say it out loud. But that one is definitely dark romantasy. That one has all your typical aspects of the fantasy genre, but then there's definitely like dark with demons, and each character kind of pulling at their own demons with, and then one of them is like being, the girl is being hunted, and very morally gray characters and stuff like that. And then, of course, castle setting, there's magic. All three main characters have their own magic and stuff. So that one is very much dark fantasy with romance. And then I've got the third, the steampunk. So that one is steampunk. I kind of like to say that one's like fantasy sci-fi because you bring the steampunk in, brings a little sci-fi to it, but then you've also got it's got magic, it's got mutants and stuff like that. So that to me is more fantasy as well. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Would you ever try writing anything that's not got fantasy elements? Something maybe more like contemporary romance?
I don't think so. I would never write it out completely because I do love trying new things. I think it's fun to always expand writing and stuff like that. But there's just too much that I enjoy. And you know, my name isn't, escape isn't everything that I do. So I'm very much an escapist. I love to get away from reality. If anything, maybe an urban fantasy would be as close to earth and contemporary as I would get, kind of thing. Yeah. Do you like pretty much just stick to your fantasy romance, or do you want to try something more contemporary down the road?
I don't know, like I've thought about the idea, but then to stick to it long enough to produce a full-length novel, I'm not sure if I'd be able to do that.
Right.
But I have toyed around with some ideas in the past.
Okay.
But then that's partially what inspired one of the novels I'm working on at the moment. It was like an idea I'd been toying with in a contemporary setting.
Gotcha.
So it's like, you know, the concept of like you have the bad boy and the girl falls for him and then he turns soft for her. So I was going to flip the idea so that instead of him becoming soft for her, she like turns bad. So it's like it creates corruption on that. So I was going to create it more in like a high school setting, but then I couldn't write it like that.
Gotcha.
So that idea kind of sat on the shelf for a while. and then eventually it became integrated into a fantasy story, and that was how
like that was the missing piece.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I like that. Because that's what, so I have like characters, you know, that you were saying you had this concept, this idea that it was, you just kind of shelved it for a little bit until the fantasy came along, and then it was like, that's it, that's the missing. So I have these characters. So actually the characters that are in my dark romance, or fantasy romance, that one actually has two characters from two totally different stories that I meshed together just out of the blue, kind of put them together in the first chapter, and was like, what if I start a new story with these two? And it just bloomed from there. It was perfect. And then I brought in Brim, who is the shadow wielder, the king's shadow or whatever. And then those three's dynamic just became the perfect combination to keep me going, you know?
Yeah.
So it is funny how things will sit around for a while, but they'll still stick with you. You can't let them go.
Yeah.
But you got to have that perfect, like what is it? Chemistry or something, you know? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Calculations.
Sometimes all the pieces just fit together.
Yeah, it's almost like sometimes you just have to wait for that, you know? You've got an idea, you've got a spark. But so actually I'll jump into that. So with you, when writer's block happens, or when you have a little bit of a spark, what is it that kind of really keeps you going? Like what breaks you through that? Is it just from writing your other project, or is there a certain thing that you can do that can break you out of that and help you with your building?
I guess switching projects is the only like solid way that I know how to break through it. It's usually what works. But I don't know, sometimes I get like bits and pieces of ideas unconnected to a novel, and then it makes me think, how can I use it? Like, for example, I sometimes take inspiration from dreams that I've had at night, and then in the morning I'll like write them down, and then sometimes that sparks ideas, but it's very unreliable to use that.
Right. No, I totally get that, because actually one of the alien project that I'm doing started as a dream, because a lot of the alien stories, which I love, don't get me wrong, are where the people, it's like humans are taken and stuff like that, and then they fall in love with an alien person, whether it's like a warrior, hero, however it works out. I love them. They're great. But I kind of took a story and I'm like, wait, what if Earth is actually part of, they know aliens exist, you know, what if it's like everyone, there's aliens and different species and stuff who live on Earth as well. Humans live on other planets. What if it's more of, there's this like agency who finds true love, intergalactic. And so you kind of like sign, almost like a dating app. You sign up for it, and it could be a day and you get a phone call after signing up. You know, we found your match. It could be years. I've got this one story where it's a older in life. She's like 39, 40 years old. I'm midlife, I guess. I'm 35, so I can't say older in life. But she signed up for it like 15 years ago, has gone through a divorce, has done all that, and then she gets matched with a true love. So it's actually where each book can be its own story, but I kind of wanted to take a more fun approach to it than just the captured and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I was going with that. I totally went on a rant. I'm sorry.
And the dating apps are cool concepts though.
Yeah, well, that's it was the dream. It hit me in a dream. I remember the spaceship coming up and the person like being like, who are you? Oh, oh, you're here for me, like it's happening, like that. I remember that in the dream, the person was so excited, like, oh, this is so great, I'm gonna find my true love. But that's what it was the dream. But yeah, sorry.
It's all right.
You can go ahead and ask another question. I feel like I just went on a long time.
Not a problem. So I know you're a pantser. What does that look like for you?
So I am 100% a pantser when it comes to just the writing aspect, just the chapter after chapter kind of a thing. But I could be considered a combination when it comes to the world building though, because I do love my notebooks. I love writing down characters. I love character boards as well. And I love creating maps and stuff as well. So I have little tidbits of world building things. Almost more for me to remember, because almost like maps in a book, if I'm looking back and my people are going from start at one place, I need to remember, like, where have they been? What are the names again? So I have to write them down for myself. So I'm not going back chapters just to find what was the name of that town that this happened in, and stuff. So but when it comes to beyond that, beyond the very beginning, have a little sketch of a map, have a little character board, the eye color, I always have to know first and last names before I can like really dive into things, and like hair color. Do they have anything like birthmarks, missing an arm, specific, like an eye patch? Like, I need to know specific little details like that before I can really jump in. But beyond that, when it goes into, there's no outlining. Maybe in the middle, I always struggle in the middle. That's where my writer's block hits a lot. So you might see me sketch out chapter like 19 idea, like that kind of thing. Like maybe this is more like a note, give myself a note, but otherwise it is my characters take charge, and they could do it better than I ever could. You almost have to get into, like, Brim is super, he's very not only broody, but he is self conscious, but he like hides that with his dark magic and everything. So then getting into his head and stuff, he'll take control when it's in his head. Then he kind of takes control of his scene. And I love it because you never know what, he's very twisty in that way. But then you've got Wraith, who he's king. He's been this king person for forever. He's very calculated. He's very controlled. And he's like, we don't have time for your games, and these two have been around each other since they were young teens. So they have this love-hate banter relationship and stuff. And then you've got Bae, who is she's a spitfire. She's not your average court person, and stuff. She was born more raised like in the wilderness on farm and stuff like that, of this magical medieval world, and so she doesn't dress like the other ladies. She doesn't fit in. She's the type that will chug a glass of wine and then everyone's like gasping. So then these three together are just a hoot, and they're the type that are not afraid to take charge. So that they help me pants my way through stuff. So I let them take. I enjoy letting them take control of the story.
I'm kind of similar to that. Like, I'm a pantser as well. I write whatever pops into my head with that particular scene, and the characters kind of take over. But I find that I need to know the ending of the story, otherwise I can't get there. I need some kind of direction to move in, but then whatever happens in the middle is completely unplanned, and the characters just write that themselves. And then sometimes I'll need a character to fulfill a particular need. Like, for example, if I start with a main character, then I need to introduce the friends to them. And
Right.
I do not know anything about the friend until they literally walk onto the page and
Gotcha.
they start interacting, and then the personality kind of develops from that.
And then do you have to like take that person and put it into a note, or can you just remember that? Like remember all their
No,
features and you can remember it?
I don't really make notes for that kind
Yeah,
of thing. That's what I'm trying to get better at. But like
gotcha.
things like personality, I can kind of remember, but then
Mhm.
it's little things like I might forget what eye color I've written them in a
Yeah,
particular scene, and then I go back to check that. And there's like
right.
random details that I do need to make notes of. But once the personality's there, I know
Yeah,
that character.
that's good. Because that's the same here. I can think I said green eyes or whatever, and then I'll go back and I'll be like, oh my gosh, it was dark brown eyes, you know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man. So those are things I have to write them down or I will. The person, I agree that same with me. The personality part, it's almost like that's just natural. But when
Yeah.
it comes to the features, I do have to have, that's where my notebooks come into play or the
Yeah.
Pinterest and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I make Pinterest boards, but I'm terrible at like keeping them updated. Like I'll go through a phase of making an entire
right.
board for something, and then I don't look at it again for a year.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's a bad
yeah, I do
habit.
the same. Yeah, I do the same. And actually, I was just going through my Pinterest board the other day because I'm trying to make like a cork board of inspiration and stuff. And I was going to print some things off. And there was this idea. I remember it hitting me like a sledgehammer really hard. And I never went anywhere with it. But I've got like 200 different pins on this board. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, maybe down the road that will come to life. But I'm like, I just remember like I spent a week just throwing things on there and stuff, but it really never went anywhere and stuff. But I do the same. Yeah. Where I'll,
Yeah.
and, and like, I look at like my characters right now, Wraith and Grim and Bay, and I'll look at some of their, especially Bay, some of her earliest photos that I threw on that board. I'm like, I need to take them off because I started her off almost like a real innocent type. And she was like, that's not me. You know, that's not who I am. So, um, so do you, we talked Pinterest and character boards. What about music? Do you find inspiration or do you create playlists for music for your characters and stuff? Or
See, I don't tend to use music to help me. Like music is a big part of my life, but it's
Mhm.
kind of like separate from writing. Like
Gotcha.
I can have music playing in the background, but I don't do the whole making playlists. And I would like to, but it's just not something I've ever done before.
Right. Well, and it could also be another thing that can just take you away from you're creating that instead of writing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I fall into that category where I can start getting into, I want to be a better note taker. I want to create certain playlists because I do have playlists, but most of them are just writing playlists in general,
Yeah.
just to kind of get me in that mindset and stuff. A lot of instrumental stuff. Um, but sometimes I get focused or sidetracked on that. And then I'm like, I could be using this time to write.
Yeah.
Do you find it easy? So that's actually a question that I have. When you get into when it's time like a writing session, do you have any like rituals or things like you have to have a cup of coffee or tea, or do you have to have a candle burning? Is there anything that you specifically have to kind of set, or do you just, this is it, and wherever I am, I'm writing?
Yeah, there's no like particular routine for me. Like I can write pretty much anywhere. So I was doing a long journey on a train yesterday, for example, and I only had my phone with me. So I was in my notes app writing during the journey. And
Gotcha.
it's not as easy on my phone compared to my laptop, but it was something to pass the time. And I I felt like writing at that point. So I got my phone out and there I was. There's no like particular routine or anything I have to do. You just write anywhere, anytime.
Yeah. I like that because sometimes you can that's almost easier to do something like that. When it's easier to just be like, oh, it's hit me, the scene has hit me. Now I'm just gonna sit down and write really quick and stuff. Instead of be like, get all my setup going. Because I can be back and forth both ways. I actually like writing on my phone, which is why I enjoyed Google Docs. But with this Campfire, you can also write on your phone. Just download the app and it's all connected, like how Google Docs work. But I actually like it just because sometimes I can. So I wear bracelets and like stuff like that. Sometimes when I'm typing, little silly things can make me slow down, like stutter or backspace because I messed up on this or whatever. And I'm a horrible speller. And so I get like caught up on that because it could be like it's like the right word, but the wrong spelling. And I'm like, I know it, but I can't think of how am I supposed to properly write that, spell that.
Yeah.
I will always be a horrible speller. So on my phone, I feel like it's just more because you're always, people are always texting nowadays. So I do feel like I can be quicker on my phone. I do like it, but then there's more distractions when it comes to phone.
Yeah.
So
like constant notifications popping up, and then you can end up scrolling on social media, check out what's happening on Bookstagram.
Yeah, that's the problem. I enjoy it. So like I love writing outside. Do you enjoy writing outside or more like inside settings?
I tend to write inside more, but I do enjoy outside as well.
Yeah, on a nice day. So that's something, obviously, I live in Iowa. It's either really hot in the summertime. Well, I've grown accustomed. I love the heat. So to me, that's happy. Just on a nice shade. I love it. So summertime, I love it. Going outside, sitting. Fall is good too. But sometimes fall can be crisp. Spring is rainy and gross. And then winter is just dreadful. So in my opinion, that's me though. So inside writing, I do a lot. I actually do a lot of writing come winter into the cold months on my computer. And then I have my settings, I'll sit down, grab coffee, that kind of stuff. But I really, really enjoy sitting outside on my phone, just getting whatever I can out in the sunshine under the shade. I just find something about that fun. Yeah. Did I cut out?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Sorry. Did you want to ask another question? Otherwise, I have a few more.
I'll go for it. Do you think you're more of an underwriter or an overwriter on the first draft?
So this is hard. It kind of depends on the project, I suppose. Because right now I feel like I'm underwriting everything and stuff. But I guess what I should say is I did underwrite too much of this. I skipped a whole middle section. Like there was not enough words for this dark romance fantasy. There was not enough going on, too much. It was very spacey. I had a great ending, great beginning. The middle was almost non-existent in my mind. Like it focused too much on romance and took away from the dark elements. And so it was almost like the ending just exploded without reason. So that's what I'm doing right now is I'm completely fixing that. the middle is totally written almost like it's like first draft. So this time around, I'm trying to overdo it before I go in and truly finalize everything, you know?
Yeah.
And so with that one, it was, I think because it was a nano project, NaNoWriMo, it was almost like I was just really focused on getting things out, just writing every day, and not so much focusing on if the story was really coming together, you know?
Yeah.
So that one I definitely underwrote, but I am super descriptive. I use words that definitely need to be cut out come editing time. Like there's no reason you just double stated the same thing, you know? So I think in general, just like I'm an over talker, I'm an over writer for the most part.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely an underwriter. Like,
okay.
as I'm writing the second draft of Royal Games at the moment, I can see the word count going up compared to the first draft already. And because it was a first draft as a pantser, it's so difficult to get the story right on the first go. Like, it's just impossible. So there's all these issues I can see with it that need fixing. And some of that means writing brand new scenes, which it all needs fleshing out and like tying together. So I've definitely started with like the bare bones of the story, and then it all needs building up from there.
Well, and isn't that mostly, even if you are like writing too much and stuff, isn't that mostly what the first draft is? It's just getting the idea out. It's just getting it out of your head so it's on paper and you can go back and fix it.
Yeah.
And make it make sense. Yeah. Because first drafts, I love them. I think they are so fun to write. It's so fun to see your ideas come out of this dark space that they've been hiding in and come to life. But it's also like when I go back and I reread through it, sometimes that can cause writer's block because I'm like, this is so awful. What am I thinking? Like, this is horrible. I need to shut it all down. But then I just have to come back and like step away and have a fresh head coming back. Being like, of course it's going to stink. It was me just throwing out things.
Yeah, that's where Royal Games is at the moment. Like, it's Song of Darkness, my other novel that I've been working on more recently, because Royal Games is struggling a little bit. It's like, now that I've got the first draft, I can see where the story is, but it's just trying to piece together what's missing and how do I fix one plot hole without creating another one. And that's been a struggle, and it's been interesting learning how editing is different to like the drafting of a novel.
Yeah. And editing can be fun. I have like a love-hate relationship with editing. I either am really into it and it's going great. Otherwise, it's like nails on a chalkboard, just like grinding and it's not fun. So I have a definitely hit or miss. So do you edit most of your stuff yourself, or do you have like a friend or an editor that you send things to?
I'm just doing it all myself at the moment, but I'm hoping to finish both the drafts I'm currently working on for my novels, and then maybe find a critique partner or a couple of alpha readers, and I'll just get some outside feedback from people who haven't read it before, who haven't created the world, and just see what they think of it.
Right. Yeah, because that's the thing. Sometimes, like, we read our stories so many times, over and over. And I'll never forget, I think it was a famous author who said, basically read your story until you're sick of it. And then you know it when that's when you know it's done.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's probably true. When you're like, there's nothing else I can do, it is what it is. That's probably when your story is good, you know, because you've done the editing, you've done the beta readers. There's only so much you can do, and so many times you can rewrite it before it becomes a whole different story, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we already kind of talked about where you are in your process.
Yeah.
And then do you try and write every day then? Or is it more just when you're inspired kind of thing?
It's a complicated question, really, because I try to write every day, and I have been in the habit the past couple of weeks. I've been quite good at that. But sometimes life just gets in the way, and I find I hardly write anything for a whole month before I get a chance to dive back in again. So
Yeah.
ideally, I'd write every day, but it just doesn't work out like that.
Right. Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you are. And do you find it kind of how do I want to word it? Easy to come back? Like if you take that month off, is it easy to come back, or do you struggle to be like you almost have to like push yourself back into sit down, do it, write it. You've got the time now. Is that how you are, or do you find it easy to just be like, okay, I've got the time. Let's start this session.
I think it depends. Like, it depends where I've got up to last time as to how easy or difficult it is to get back into.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I'm at the point right now. So the kids are back in school. Well, two of them. I homeschool my oldest. He starts in a week, but I wanted to give myself a 2-week, knowing it can be a struggle for me. I took 3 weeks off, and it can be a struggle for me to kind of just be like, the cleaning can wait. You need to take this time to sit and write, you know? But once I form that pattern, once I've just done it for maybe 5 days in a row, then it's hard to do the opposite, take a day for myself, you know? It's like, no, I've started this pattern. I want to keep going. So I do really love, usually October is when I really jump right back into a scheduled, because I like to do NaNoWriMo. So I started in October, knowing that then in November, I'll already be set in that patterned way of everyday living. But it can take me a while. I have to kind of like, not that once I sit down and get back to my characters, I'm like, oh, I've missed you. This is, this is so fun. But it takes me just to sit down, like go sit down. That can be a struggle.
I find that for me, my goal is to write every day. I don't set like a particular word count that I want to reach. Like, I know some people do that, but I'd rather just write and see how far I can get. So even if one day it's only 1,000 words or one day it's 100, at least the story's still moving forwards.
Exactly. Those 100 words could be the start of something that tomorrow you're going to write 2,000 words, because it was the spark of that, what you needed to get going, to keep going. Sometimes I find it's a simple note that I leave myself. Like, it was a struggle. Like yesterday so I'm trying to set a goal of 1,000 words at least every other day, because I know once I set that pattern, it will only help. It'll only get better. And sometimes it can simply be like, yesterday was a struggle, but I left myself just a real simple note. And I'm hoping that when I see that note, because it was like I knew where the scene should be going, what should be happening, but it was not. It was like my characters didn't want to do what they were told. You know what I mean? Like, it was like they were even struggling to It was a sad scene, so it could be that kind of a thing that like they are actually going to take it. We wouldn't be sad like this. We would be sad like this. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that this little line will help me jump back in and be like, that's what it was missing. That's why it was stressful, you know?
It's just setting yourself up for the next session.
Hopefully. Do you struggle with certain scenes over a different one? Do you find more scenes come easily, or certain scenes come easily, and others come hard?
I guess so. Like sometimes if I know a particular scene is coming up and I'm working towards it, then I can struggle with some of the scenes leading up to it. And then that scene itself becomes much easier because I've been planning it for a while, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I have like checkpoints planned in the novel of like, I want this, this, and this to happen. But then I have no idea what's got to happen to get it to that point. And sometimes the middle can be a struggle.
Yeah. So there's like an exciting scene that you can't wait to write, but you're like, but there's all this other stuff that I gotta struggle through.
It's like I have to develop the character arc to a certain point before that scene can happen. And sometimes if it's just like, I don't know, like sometimes I don't know where to take it to get the characters to that point.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And I struggle, like if I know a certain scene, so I definitely struggle with the heart. I think it's because I'm not I'm not an emotional person in general. And so to get really into the heart of the emotions and stuff, it's almost like there's my therapy. I gotta like help myself, prepare myself because this is gonna get real hard real quick, you know? And then usually once I write them, it's great and it feels awesome to get that out. But knowing a scene is going to be a difficult one, which is where I'm at with my steampunk one right now, it can be such a struggle. My brain like retaliates and it's like, nope, don't go there. We want to write something fun or exciting or battle, you know?
Or I think I find battle scenes easier than like simple dialogue as well. I don't know if you find that sometimes as well, but like when there's not a lot of action in a particular scene, sometimes it's difficult to get through the scene.
I have definitely, so that was something when I started with kind of showing people, starting to like have people read my stuff and get their critiques and stuff. One of the biggest things is I'm really good at description scenes. I'm really good at getting in someone's head and they can tell you everything. They can tell you everything in their head, but it's almost like you need to bring in style. So I was struggling with that really, and almost to the point where I didn't see it myself because I was like, oh, this is awesome, like world building and awesome, you know, but it was like, yeah, no, I needed to break down those bulky little scenes. Otherwise it becomes like Lord of the Rings where it's, you know, what is it, 60 pages of what the hobbits do, you know, like that kind of stuff. So I've actually just in the past year and a half really gotten better with the dialogue. And now I find it actually really fun to do the dialogue and stuff. So I did struggle. I struggled a lot with that. Just knowing when to throw it in there and stuff. And now, I found it fun. And multi-point of view. So do you like to write in like multi-point of view character, like stories, or do you just like to stick to one character, one point of view?
I've always written a single point of view just because I find it easier to get into one character's headspace and then I know that character really well. And then it's how they interact with other people rather than like having multiple storylines going on at once.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really like a good way. I think fantasy books I love both. I really do. I love reading both.
Yeah, I enjoy reading both as well.
The multi-point of view, if it's gonna like wrap up, you know that the ending is gonna have all kinds of elements to it. That can really, I love reading all the different sides then. But if it's like one where this person is going to go through so much, this particular person is the one that you need that focus. You need that single focus. And that's where the emotion, and maybe that's where I struggle. I need to maybe focus a bit more on a single person, and then I can really get out the emotion scenes.
Yeah. I think sometimes it helps to think about it like a single point of view. That character is the focus, whereas you only really need to write multiple points of view if the storylines are going off in separate directions. Like sometimes you can get a dual POV book where it's literally like the two main characters are love interests and it's like two different perspectives on the same romance, and that's not necessarily what you need to be doing. You want to have those characters, if they've got different points of view, you want them to be going off and having different adventures, and then you weave the two storylines together.
Yeah. And then, so with your main character, what are the main things that you would kind of use to describe her? Is it a her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I talk about Royal Games, so my main character, she's a princess, but she doesn't like the royal life. Like she thinks the nobility are quite stuck up and they don't do what they should to be helping people. So she wants to escape that life and just live like a regular life, just not doing very much, just like the average person. And that's like her goal throughout the novel.
Yeah.
But she's quite like sociable and quite bookish, and she like gets her head down and she's very determined. But
I like that.
She can also be quite emotional at times. Like the incident at the start of the book is an assassination attempt on her. So that's why she ends up running away to Earth. So when she runs away, it's not to live the life she wanted, it's to go into hiding. So she's trying to navigate that, and she's struggling with all the emotional baggage of being betrayed by someone and like fear of the assassins finding her, and so she's quite emotional as well.
Yeah.
So she's trying to navigate a lot of different things at once.
Right. No, that's interesting. I like that. That's a good, I mean, an assassination attempt. That's a good way to kind of hook people in right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so is there a single love interest in this, or is there multiple? Yeah, single.
So she meets someone pretty much straight away when she ends up on Earth, and he doesn't know why she's there. He doesn't know who she really is, but they kind of form a bit of a connection where she realizes that he's also magical, and so they have that in common, and it's like a secret that keeps them together.
Okay.
So then he kind of like helps her deal with the assassins without truly knowing until much later on what's actually happening.
Okay. One more question, because this is super interesting. I like this.
Okay.
So like the people on Earth, the person on, do they know that there's portals as well, or no? Is that something that's just unique to her?
No. So
Okay.
the humans on Earth, but then there are also like magical people mixed in amongst humans.
Okay.
And the humans don't know there's magic, but there is like a magical underground going on.
Gotcha. That's cool. I love that. Yeah. That's awesome because that almost is like a blend of deep fantasy and urban fantasy. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
That's a unique kind of concept and stuff.
yeah.
Um, and then how long has this kind of idea been with you? How long?
Um, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago that I started writing it, and it took about a year to get through the first draft, and then
Yeah.
it's just been a lot slower since then. I guess when I started writing that was when I finished that draft was when around the point I started Song of Darkness. So at that point I had the two works in progress going on. So that slowed things down and things in life got in the way a bit. Like obviously it was COVID and then I had like big exam periods in like
Yeah.
college. So just things have been getting in the way, but I'm trying to get back into it now and I'm trying to get, if I can, both drafts done by the end of the year. Although Song of Darkness is very close to the end now, and Royal Games might have to take a bit longer.
Gotcha. And so when it comes to your books, can they both be read totally separately, or is it like you have to read one and then the other?
Yeah, they're completely separate. So
Yeah.
you'll find Easter eggs to each of them in the other book because they're the
Oh,
same
that's
world. So
cool.
it's nice to have some kind of crossover elements. But
Right.
they're completely separate stories and the characters don't know each other or anything.
I love that. That's awesome. And that is really fun to kind of write that way where um you know what you're kind of sprinkling in there and stuff. And
Yeah.
um that's cool. I like it. Do you have another question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, so because this is a podcast collaboration, I just wanted to talk a little bit about hosting a podcast and
Yeah.
why you decided to do it.
So for me, well, one, in the beginning, it was me and Stacy kind of doing it together, and I didn't want to start it alone. But I had been told, well, one, my husband was kind of like, you. I love getting to know people. I love the Bookstagram community. I love the writing community and everything that they really do. I think it's such a supportive community. So he was actually the one that kind of sparked the idea. He's like, you should just do it. Bring on the people that you talk to, bring on, and then so I brought it up to Stacy, and then Stacy was like, yeah, that sounds fun too. And so that was kind of like the leeway into it for me. I almost needed somebody to kind of help me. Now that I've done it just on my own, I'm okay. I'm okay. And I love it. I'm an awkward person. Sometimes as sociable as I like to be, I still have anxiety and every beginning starts rough. I'm always like, and I overtalk. But I really enjoy this. I kind of just wanted to do it to get to know more of the people that I talk to and I comment with and I see their photos and I see their process and their projects and their journeys. So that's kind of why I started. And it kind of
Yeah.
to connect and get to know and then also to get the a lot of people I work with, even if they're going to be eventually traditionally published, they're all just beginning. A lot of them are just starting off. First books are not quite, first or to first drafts and stuff. So I like to get them seen. as well. Even if it's only 20 people see it, it's like that's 20 people who got to know them and why they write and their projects a little bit more. So, and what about you?
Yeah, I'm doing a similar thing as well. Like, right when I started Bookstagram, I had the idea, what if I could do author interviews? But
Okay.
I had no followers at that point, and I didn't know how I would communicate that, what platform I would use or anything. And then I just started listening to podcasts, and listening to a few of them, it got me thinking, well, why don't I do this? And why does it have to be limited to author interviews? Why can't I just speak to my friends that I've made on this platform? So it's been really nice getting to have a proper conversation with people instead of just like a few exchanged messages every now and then. It's like I can actually talk to people face to face.
Right.
And then, like you said as well, it's helping friends promote their works, even if it's not to a massive audience. You can still introduce other people to find new readers or new followers or whatever else they're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's why podcasts are still, even though they've become like the big thing since like COVID and stuff, I still feel like there's such a new thing, but they really are so helpful and just a good way to kind of promote without being like, read my book, take, notice me. It's just more of like talking and getting to know, and it's a more fun, relaxed way to kind of be like, I'm a writer, and to let those who maybe have similar struggles, like being a pantser and have your first draft takes a couple years or whatever, then they realize I'm not alone. There's other people who have the same struggle and stuff. So, yeah, I enjoy that because that was me for a long time too. Was one, the older you get, the more you're like, what will it ever get accomplished? Will I ever get to that point? I should have done this 5 years ago, and stuff like that. But seeing that there's so many people, and I read somewhere that the average person doesn't write their first book until like age 37. So I'm like, I've got 2 years. I'm okay. But I just love seeing that I'm not alone. There's all ages with this dream, and helping each other is the biggest thing. That's huge. I probably never would have gotten to the point of, like, I wrote on Wattpad and stuff, but like I didn't have my photo on there and stuff. I was very just like threw it out there. Nobody really knew who I was. Where this, I'm actually able to be like, this is me, and I'm writing, and these are my stories, these are my characters, my words, my thoughts. So it's just kind of fun to find a community and find other people who have similar goals.
I really enjoyed the Bookstagram community, but I feel like there isn't quite the same thing for podcasts, and especially book podcasts and writing podcasts. So what would you like to see if there was a possibility to create a stronger community?
I love the collab is really cool. I love that then we can have the interviews on each other's pages, so then people from yours and wherever you post, like eventually I want to get further into like Spotify as well. It's just more of the whole nother thing on my plate that I just don't have the time for, so right now YouTube, but I love that the different platforms. So like you use Instagram Live and I use YouTube. So then I just really would like to see more collaboration. Would be really fun. And then I would just like, even if it wasn't its own like podcast community. I'm sure there is a podcast community out there, but a bookish podcast community.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to see it more in the writers community, to see that kind of blow up, that
Yeah.
wanting to be on the podcast, wanting to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I feel like reading and writing podcasts are kind of in the background of Bookstagram, but I feel like more could be done to like bring them out. And
Yeah.
if we keep communicating with each other and keep collaborating with other podcasts as well, then hopefully we can help to like build a stronger community that way, and
Right.
just get more people engaged.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's what maybe I could start even sharing to the Bookstagram, that kind of stuff. I always just kind of do a, here it is. Here's who's on this, time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think I've already covered this. I am not very good with technology. So I love when I see people like they use a little word sound clip when they're like explaining who's coming on. I'm like, how do you do that? Because I've tried so hard to figure it out and I can't. It has to be like a separate app or something. But
I've been
struggle.
wanting to get better at the marketing side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just kind of started the podcast a little bit on a whim, didn't know what I was doing really, so I haven't given the marketing side of it as much thought as the rest of my Bookstagram posts.
Right. Well, and it's all, I mean, really also when you start marketing it too much too, then it kind of takes the fun.
Yeah.
Just like a book. You don't want to just hound people with it. You want to do it for fun. And if they stumble upon it and find inspiration or find it fun, then that's the main thing and stuff. So
yeah, I've tried using reels for it, like using a reel to announce when there's a new episode out, but then they never seem to get much attention, even though the Instagram algorithm supposedly likes reels. So I'm like, where do I go from here? Do I need to be making different reels, or do I try a different format to make that announcement? And
who knows anymore?
A bit all over the place.
Because Instagram, it was like they pushed reels and then they stopped again and were like, no, we're going back to photos. And now I saw that they're going back to reels again. I don't know. I just know that mine's been declining. I mean, in the summer, like July and June were great. I had a lot of stuff that was seen more than usual and everything. August has been like one of the worst months ever. So I'm like, who knows? I mean, it's like
do what you hit and miss with everything.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I just start trying to do. Like I know some people, I do have some really good people who they do watch and I'm thankful for them and stuff. And I know even here at home, they like to get on and watch. Now, will they watch? It's like watch for 20 minutes, go do something else, watch for 20 minutes, and that's totally fine. And or listen like an audiobook in the background, which is why I need to be better at Spotify, because that's what a lot of people do with podcasts. They listen.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know about this, but I use a website called Anchor, and then that distributes my podcast to all different places. So it's run by Spotify. So I think they recently rebranded it to it's like Podcasts by Spotify or something. They rebranded it to recently, but they sort out all like the distribution side of it, and then YouTube would obviously still be separately, but that's how I get it out most of the time.
Yeah, no, I didn't know about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that might help you out.
Yeah, you'll have to send the link for me, maybe on Messenger, so I can check that out. Did you have any other questions then? Or because I think I'm down to I think I asked all of mine.
I only have one more, and
Okay.
that's what's are you currently reading?
I am actually reading, talk about alien romance. So I am reading Choosing Theo. Victoria, I can't remember her last name. I can show a picture of it, but I'm down to like only an hour, I think, left in it, and I'm loving it. I did just finish A Shadow in the Ember. Is that what it's?
Yeah.
I'm running. But those are the two that I have been reading, and I'm trying to get through Throne of Glass. Now, don't look at me like, oh, I'm hating it. No, it's not that I'm hating it. I just get overwhelmed with hyped books and stuff, so it takes me a little bit longer. But this is the one that I'm currently reading and loving right now. It's really good. Great audiobook if you have Scribd. So, and what are you currently reading?
I've nearly finished Cinder from the Lunar Chronicles, so I'm really enjoying that at the moment. And then I'll move straight on to Scarlet, the next book in the series, probably tomorrow.
Oh, perfect. I've heard those are really, really good. That's on my TV. I've got them. I think they're right behind me somewhere.
I can see,
Yeah. So I do have those on my TBR, and I just, again, a hyped book. Something about it. I want to read it. That's kind of where Bookstagram hindered me a little bit, because I used to just pick up something and read it. Now I'm like, I have to like look or like ignore spoilers and like do that stuff. But well, I have had a lot of fun. And I'm so glad that we finally got to connect and talk. And I love the sound of your stories, and I love that you're doing it. You're going for it, right? Making dreams happen.
I've really enjoyed speaking to you too. And I'm really excited to find out more about this novel you're apparently publishing next year.
Yeah, I'm fingers crossed it all works out. That's I'm not going to say like a date or anything and get overwhelmed with it, but it is 2024. That is my goal. That's the plan. We're on the right pace. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for you as well. And hopefully both of us can get our Panther brains in order to get on daily schedules. And I would love to maybe in a few months or beginning of next year do this again and see where
that would be really nice.
Yeah, and see where we each are come that time. Well, I'm gonna let you go and say goodbye. It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
You have a good day.
Hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.